Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Tilson Live. It is Tuesday. It's 2 o'clock. I'm Eric Alarid, one of your gracious hosts coming to you on Tilson Live. We are here each and every week talking to you about all things building on your land. So I am joined, as I am each and every week, by Her Majesty Dawn Dantzler, our Vice President of Marketing and Customer Experience. Welcome, Dawn. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing fantastic. Fantastic. Also, very special guest today. Join because he and I are doing our quarterly ride around the state together, which is why he looks so haggard. He's trapped in a truck with me for 3 days. Our Senior Vice President of Construction, Mr. Justin Ordno. What's up, Justin?
Oh, just running and gunning with you, buddy. Just running and gunning with you.
Well, he and I are having a good time running around seeing all of your beautiful pieces of property all over the state of Texas. So we've got to see some actually pretty beautiful sunrise and sunsets, spending just quality time together, seeing our product in the field, seeing other people's homes in the field, getting to visit with all kinds of folks out there across the highways and byways. So it's always good to get out there and get on the road. But anyway, you guys jump in here. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us what part of the process that you're in. Tell us where you're building. We'd love to hear from you guys. Obviously, we are here to talk about everything building on your land. So we're here for you. All of this entire show is devoted to your needs, your education, your knowledge, and to help you understand kind of some of the things that go on, the nuance around building on your land as maybe opposed to buying a resale home or a home in a production subdivision. So with that, Dawn, I know we have a one of our favorite type of episodes today. What will we be discussing today?
So today is Ask Us Anything about building on your land. So this episode is all about you guys, the customers.
That's not what it said. It said Ask Us Anything. It did not qualify building on your land.
That's what your invite said. I mean, they can ask us about anything else. It's just, the standard disclaimer, the further you get away from building on the land.
The further you deviate from building on your land, the worse the advice is going to get.
Yes. It's going to get pretty bad. But we promise
to give you exactly what you pay for on this particular episode. So really today's episode is whatever you guys want it to be. So any questions you want to have about the process in general, building a home on your land, the construction part of the process, as we have the head of construction for all of Tilson Homes, Justin Ordno, is on here with us. So he can answer anything you want to know about timeframes and what happens next and what's going on behind the sheetrock and all that kind of good stuff. And we do have some updates for you guys to give you on some of our model homes that are under construction all over the state. If you want to talk about financing, if you want to talk about design, if you want to talk about what's currently going on in the housing market, we are here to answer and talk about all of those things. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube, we think. And we are here to answer all of your questions about building on your land. So please do jump in. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process that you're in, maybe what you're building. If you're just thinking about doing this, we want to hear from you. We do have a couple of normal questions that people ask, and we can jump into those from here in just a second. But Justin, tell us a little bit about what you guys are seeing on the construction side. So I know the last 2 years has been a whirlwind of trade availability, contractor management, expectation management, supply chain. So what have you seen? Are we through the worst of it? Is it are things normalizing? What's going on out there?
I think that's a great question. And so it's interesting. We were just having a conversation about historicals and how little they mean right now. So really everything is about the forecast that we have. And, we are starting to see improvements in supply chain. We have been. As we were riding around yesterday, engaging other contractors that we do business with that obviously have other clients that they work for, they're talking about people dialing it back a little bit. So contractors are actually freeing up a little bit more. They're not minding the travel so much to get out to some of these properties that we have. So it's a little bit easier to navigate. I do think that cycle times, what we're seeing on the front side, cycle time starting to reduce. So we still have some delays, but I think that we're seeing an uptick in production that will be maintained for the coming couple of years at least. So I know that we're all anxious to get everything tomorrow, but I still feel like we're moving in that right direction, and things aren't going to be taking as long once that file gets out to the field.
Sure.
But there is still some obstacles. Everybody's coming to the end of the year push. Everybody wants to be in for Christmas. All the companies want you in before Christmas and all that. So we're really trying to push hard to get through those that are capable, trying to prepare those folks, and really trying to push on the starts that we have coming out to us every week. And so cycle times are still varying across the state as we move into it. So a more granular answer would probably be received once you ask and get into the sales office. They can follow up on that.
Yeah, that's one thing we've noticed. It varies quite a bit from region to region, and we're even seeing that on the as people hear about slowing markets or bottoming out markets. It's interesting to read. I read the list every time they'll come out with a different one, and on the slowing markets, you've seen some in Austin and some in Dallas. You don't ever see San Antonio mentioned. You don't ever see Houston mentioned. And when they talk about Austin, they're talking about Austin proper, like inside the city of Austin. They're not talking about the ancillary areas surrounding Austin and Travis County. So all those areas, Hayes County, Williamson County, Bastrop, Burnett, all of those are still very, very, very busy with activity of people, the locals, leaving that Austin, Travis County madness that kind of ensued. But yeah, and so folks, jump in, tell us where you're watching from, tell us where you're building. We're here to answer any and all of your questions about whatever part of the process you want to talk about building on your land, whether it's financing or construction or design, site preparation. That's a big one. We've been talking about that a lot on the road. So Dawn, we got anybody over here watching us?
We do. We've got Will joining us from Klondike.
Hey, Will. Good to see you again, buddy.
We've got James building in Marble Falls, just finished sheetrock and the tape and float process, looking for what's next in the process. So what can he expect next, Justin?
So we're probably going to be seeing a texture truck come in pretty soon. And then from there, cabinets and trim, and we'll start into the painting process typically. So cabinets, trim and the paint could be interchangeable. Cabinets could come in next, but typically speaking, we want to see the cabinets, then trim, then paint, and then moving into tile and countertops. And so that'd be a brief overview over what to expect coming next.
Okay.
And that said, we were at a job, was it earlier today? They blur at this point, much like my truck going down the highway. But we were at one where, in fact, some things are still happening a little bit sometimes based on availability. So we were in one where the cabinets were in there, the tile was in, and then they were painting. What did they do in that situation?
Well, and then sometimes depending on the selection. So when you get into the back end post sheetrock, you start to navigate a schedule a little differently because the selections will actually influence the order by which things will go in, and you have opportunities that might come about. So if we have an entire house, it's going to be laminated vinyl plank, we might go ahead and proceed with tile to get it in the showers because it's isolated there. It's not going to have an impact on anybody else performing their functions, or it's real easy to prep those areas as well. So the back end gets a little bit different. The front end of construction, you got to have a foundation, you got to have a frame, AC, plumbing, and electrical, and then insulation. So there's a very linear process, but towards the post drywall portions, the schedule can fluctuate some. So I'm a little reluctant to always give a precise, but those are general expectations that you can have.
And so what they'd done in this one, they, of course, masked off the cabinets. They were completely taped up, masked off the showers, masked off everything. So there was a lot more, prep work done to protect all that stuff. So it, don't everybody freak out if something doesn't happen exactly like maybe how the schedule of values is ordered. We had to kind of pick something and put it into black and white. But the reality is, like Justin says, once you get to a certain stage, it's kind of, you have some options in the schedule. You got some options.
Well, we honestly want to move. So we don't want to get to a point where it's just, we have to stop. We can't do anything else. But you got to be thinking on your feet. You got to be prepared and say, hey, what can I do? And I think our guys do a pretty good job of saying, okay, if I go out of order here, this is the impact and this is what it's going to require me to do in addition to make this happen and continue moving on. So we want construction moving. We never want to be sitting stagnant. Unfortunately, at times it happens and we might have some down days, but you're always trying to angle, nudging towards or to completion is always the objective.
Okay, perfect.
Very cool.
We've got our friend from Florida over there on YouTube.
What's
Hello
up?
Again.
Welcome. Thanks for watching.
We have Dillo Creek Ranch building the Pyramid of Dozier or a Granbury in Bandera, Texas. If no one shows up for a week plus stage in If no one shows up for week plus stage of the build again. Ooh,
We're in the
we're
no.
seeing some
Okay, got it.
pauses out there.
A week plus. So I know that area. Medina County, probably one of the fastest growing counties that we have here in the state, arguably one of the ones that we've seen the most influx of folks coming into. I'm not sure exactly what stages might have been the holdup in there. So that was something, if you could get a more precise location, we could certainly follow up on that, Dawn.
Yeah.
Well, also I'm guessing the last name might have something to do with a Joser, but the other thing you think back to how our business model works, right? And this is something that we don't get into a lot because it's kind of boring, but it does matter in this case. And what Justin was speaking to earlier regarding always wanting to keep the project moving forward on a loan deal, which is what 85% of the homes that we build are done with a mortgage. Tilson does not get paid any money apart from the deposit typically until that house is completely finished. So, and it goes, the final appraisal is done, and then the final inspections are done, and then it goes to a closing a talent company. That's when we get funded. So I know that you guys for sure want the house to keep going, but believe me when I tell you that Tilson has a heavily vested interest into making sure that home continues to progress. Because again, we've locked you out a price that we're not getting made whole for until the house is finished and we go to closing. So we really, really want to get that house done. And Justin and his team are keenly aware of how the business model works. It's pretty simple. So.
Okay. All right. We got Brianna building a driftwood in Bell County, hoping the plumbers can get some work done before it rains again. Will the giant rocks that have been dug up during the forms process be removed at some point?
Great question.
They may or may not be. So it depends on where they're landing. So if they're in a pad, not necessarily required to remove those. If they're in a beam, we want to make sure that we're hitting stable ground. So it almost requires inspection. Now, MLaw, the engineer, they will be out there to inspect along with the builder, obviously, but anything that would alter the performance of that foundation, we obviously wouldn't want to go into a situation where we know we're going to have an issue moving forward. But I don't believe that, depending on the rocks, the size of those, we do build on rocky terrains, and sometimes that is just as deep as we can go, and that is suitable for that foundation design. But they could be, I would imagine if they're in the pad, it's probably going to be less impactful than if it would be in towards a beam. So I know that's very vague. Again, it's difficult without an analogy.
Yeah, without pictures to know for sure. Mm-hmm. And maybe we don't know, Brianna, is if you're talking about the rocks were dug up and placed outside the form, will those be removed? Or, because we do have a final grade type of process. But, again, maybe if you want to shoot some pictures, we can get a better answer, or contact the building superintendent. We can get a better answer for you there too. But that's a great question. Okay. It is not unnatural to build on rock. I've read it's a very wise thing to do.
We got Polly building the Breckenridge in Grapetown, Texas, at the shingle stage now. We hope soon. So hopefully that roof's going in soon. We have John saying hello to everybody. Hey, John.
What's up, John?
Hello, John.
We've got Linda watching from Arlington and building a Whitney D and May Pearl. She's almost finished, just waiting on the last appraisal to be done. So excited. Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool.
That's very cool. Very exciting. We have Lisa. We have had cabinets installed and have doors hitting cabinets, not able to fully open, cabinets blocking light boxes. I thought these issues would have and should have been caught in drafting.
That's a great question. What could be happening, Justin?
Well, before I lay it on to another department, I think the builder would need to go out there and verify that they are per plan. So I'm going to put that off onto my team, and they need to verify that. I will say with the cabinets, they have, and I know this might sound ridiculous, but different skill sets. So we have gentlemen that are really good at putting the boxes, as they call them in the industry, up against the wall. And then we have another crew that will actually come out as we near closer to completion, and they're going to doctor up a little bit on putting in different moldings that still have to go in. So they'll go in with a little bit more precision and make sure that those finish out correctly. And at the same time, they do a cabinet drawer and door adjustment. And there's actually things that are in those mechanical devices. So adjustable hinges allow us to move those doors and drawers so that they're all nice and square and straight and level and everything else. So the light boxes, I'm sure that my builder can come up with a good solution on making sure that we have adequate lighting and getting them outside of the cabinetry there.
Okay.
And what I was also in reading this, and maybe you want to clarify, Lisa, let us know. It sounds like cabinets installed and have. I don't know if she meant the interior doors, maybe an interior door swinging and hitting into a cabinet, and sometimes that is going to be like that's where they stop. In some cases, sometimes from a utility room, we see it sometimes there. We also see it from they go to a kitchen into a pantry where the door, particularly in adjustments that have been made to the plan in any way from the stock plan. Sometimes that's where the door will in fact stop. And in some of those cases, we'll put sometimes a stop on the hinge, right, Justin? If we can't get a door stop in a baseboard,
Yeah,
could we be talking about something like that? Is that possible?
it is possible. And again, a lot of the stuff is you see it. I think we always come up with reasonable solutions if there's a challenge like that, or if we missed a measurement, stuff that we can easily remedy out in the field.
Okay.
Very cool.
Very good. And Brianna's clarifying, we have a couple of large piles of rocks that are now outside the forms. I don't think my Ford Escape can haul them off.
Well, Brianna, have you tried with the let's not underestimate the power of the Ford Escape.
So what I'd like you to do, so whenever we're removing it, some of that, the rocks and stuff, we're not bringing in there, but that is your material at the end of the day. So we can certainly talk to the builder, whomever is building your home, and ask him what the options are. Some people like to keep some of that stuff that comes out. I mean, they use it into flower beds and different various things. So we're going to be a little reluctant just to start hauling off anything.
Right.
But if we catch up with the builder, let him know, hey, this is of no interest, I'm sure we could coordinate with somebody to assist you with that.
Yeah, I mean, like just traditionally, we don't include any haul off of that type of material. And in some cases, even septic rock that's removed when we're putting a septic system in that part of the world. But yeah, it would be our luck that we would start loading up and hauling something off, and then mom shows up at home and is like, where'd all my landscaping rock go?
Mm-hmm.
and we have some splaining to do, as they say. So.
Well, regardless, the crews that are out there digging it, they don't have the equipment or the hauling capability. So that's something that if we want to get in front of it, ask the builder, we can navigate that with the companies that are still going to come out to do certain cleaning possibly or grading out of the property. So I think coordinate with the builder on that, and we could probably come up with a good solution for it.
Okay, perfect. We have Candace asking, how long does the planning process generally take once you visit the design center in San Marcos?
Okay, Candace, is a great question. And actually, a lot of that depends on the customer. So in some cases, maybe you're waiting on some specific pricing from us. Maybe it's something we weren't able to price out of our desktop pricing system, our price book. So maybe in a rare case like that. But beyond that, if kind of obviously where you're building, you got the property located, you have a survey, and know roughly what house you want, what changes you want to make to that plan. And we can price those out, what options you're wanting. You may not know every single option that you want, but you can get a pretty good idea in our design centers, our color rooms of kind of what levels, maybe what level of vinyl plank or electrical fixtures or plumbing fixtures you might want. And some people, it takes them months to plan that out. And some people, it takes them about 2.5 hours. So it really is kind of up to the pace that you want to move. If there's extensive redrawing going on, we really try hard to make the changes to the plans, redline them in front of the customer while they're there, so we get feedback. I've found it's not really the best idea to have a meeting, sit down, gather thoughts, have the customer leave, we make changes, call them, but it's much better to do those things real time because you can get immediate feedback instead of going back and forth and back and forth. And I would particularly encourage you to do everything you could to avoid going back and forth just via email. And if we're doing that, let me know and we will stop. But because it is a hard way to get real-time feedback and genuine response to the changes being made. So that's one of the things that could drag it out. And then the other one would be, I know you asked a follow-up question. So it could take an hour and a half. It could take months, depending on the pace you want to go during the planning process. we've done it. It's rare. There's not a whole lot to discover necessarily. I'll tell you, here's where I'm going with that. So I'm never worried about the things that I can see on the property, right, Justin? What concerns me is the stuff I can't see. So easements, pipelines, setbacks, things that would all be on a survey, number one. The other things we can't see are what's under the ground, the soil, how it responds. And a site visit alone will not tell us anything we need to know, or any builder for that matter, by the way. So if you have somebody telling you that, oh yeah, we can tell exactly what your foundation is going to cost by just looking at the dirt, run the other way. Without a proper geotechnical investigation done by a licensed engineer, they have no idea how that soil is going to respond to moisture or lack of moisture. And so in order to obtain that, we have to do a full-on geotechnical investigation, engineer foundation design. So you have to know what house you're building. We have to do, because those things are thousands of dollars. And so that's why I don't want to mislead anyone into thinking, yep. I mean, I'm not saying we can't. We can certainly send one of our site evaluators probably out there to meet you sometime. But I don't want to disappoint someone into saying, and based on that initial meeting, we will be able to tell you anything that we could run into, because that's not true.
Right.
We can't, just without that geotech, there's not a whole lot we're going to be able to tell you other than, yes, the house physically fits here and it's 32 inches out. The good news is neither of those things are going to change regardless of who builds your home.
Right.
How the soil responds to moisture, lack of moisture, doesn't matter who builds it. The soil is going to be the soil. And then, and same thing with your out of level or your drop. So we could give you an idea. We can do a lot these days actually through Google Earth. Distances for like electrical utilities, water lines, that kind of stuff. But I know some people would really want to visit, and I'm not going to completely rule that out. Justin, you have something.
Well, and I was reading this, and maybe in a little bit different way. We actually, the planning process.
Yeah, but I was going to say that. It depends on how you define the planning process.
So we actually, and Eric's correct, like the planning process can mean a lot of different things, but we do a site evaluation for sure, because we want to go see what you've got and discover some of those things to help be the guide. We're constantly wanting to guide and make sure that you're healthy with your decisions that are coming in, right? But during that, we do send the geotech, like those things that Eric is listing off. Those are things we do, and we do make site evaluations. So there are things that we perform out in the field at certain points in that what could be considered the planning process. So for the minute you walk in the door, when we get on contract, and then we're going out and we are doing site evaluations to see, how to best guide you and make sure that everything you desire, your vision, we can accomplish. So just reading that a little bit different than you are, Eric.
And yeah, Candace, tell us what part of the process that you're in. I mean, I guess I asked that, even more specific. What part of the process are you in? And maybe we'll give you a better idea of how long that ought to take.
Yeah, I think Eric's brain immediately went to planning process as before we've signed an agreement, whereas some people consider the planning process all the way up till when we start construction. So it really,
I love it when Dawn and I are in alignment and you're kind of on the outside looking in. Like I
prefer to think of it as bringing new and rare and insightful ideas. Thank you very much. That's how I'm thinking about it.
All right. What Candace says is that she is selling a house and building a house on the same 25 acres.
And what Candace said is that Eric's right. That's what Candace said. But hey, it's not about winning, right? I mean,
of course not. Yeah.
It's
never about winning with you.
Type A. Yeah.
You still have 36 hours with me. So
I can't wait. That's so funny.
All right.
Yeah, guys, keep asking your questions. These are great questions. So keep popping your questions in. We want to hear again, financing, construction, design, color selections. That's why Justin's here to help. Any of that stuff that you can think of, we are here to help you answer those questions.
All right. And Brianna, who was asking us about the rocks, says thank you. I'll talk to Brian, who was great, by the way.
Brian is very solution oriented. I know he can always reach out to if he needs assistance, but I bet you he can come up with some good solutions.
All right. Perfect. Lisa, who was asking about her cabinets and her doors, says the master bathroom door opens maybe 65 or 70% and hits the vanity, and that's before the granite is installed. I brought it up as framing, and as I was told, it wouldn't hit.
Well, it seems that somebody was incorrect, and it is hitting. It's hard to argue with 65 and say we've got numbers coming in. It's hard to argue with numbers a lot of times. So I would think that maybe that is something that in the plan itself, we need to evaluate, maybe make an adjustment. So I don't know the size of the door here, but that might be a solution. But I would bet you that we could come up with something.
Yeah, and
It'd be
Lisa, I
helpful
know
to
you're on
have-
YouTube, so I don't think you can private message us. So maybe if you can, reach out either through our website or maybe even the Facebook page and get us a private message. I'm sure we can get a private message through the Instagram, or talk.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's been a conversation with the builder, so maybe reach back out but we can get it.
Whoever the
out
builder is, contact him and tell him to feel free to call me. I bet you I can help him, and one of my guys can certainly help him come up with a solution for that. So we'll see what the remedies are here.
Okay, perfect. Will is saying it's always nice to get to watch the Tilson live. I have a few things I need to tend to outside, so y'all have a blessed week. Maybe got some new critters coming in soon. Awesome.
Will, you got more than a few things to tend to, buddy. You got work to do. Will is not allowed to sit still very long. I got to see that in action.
All right. We've got Richard asking, is radiant floor heating an option with Tilson?
I think we're going to stay away from the radiant floor heating for right now.
Okay. All right. And Candace, she's trying to figure out how to get the ball rolling, but not get too far ahead of myself. So I think the first thing, if you haven't already been to our San Marcos office, is to go ahead and go on in and meet with them and start talking, and they can kind of help you figure out how to build a house on that same acreage. Because if you're trying to sell, you're probably going to have to, if you haven't already divided up the acreage, you're going to need to do that before you can sell. So you're still keeping part of the property and do all that. But that team can definitely help you out and give you some great advice.
Unless you're selling like a trailer, in which case, let's just push it out there, put a sign on it, and then forget all about it. But probably not the case.
Awesome. Linda is saying the finishing trim for the engineered hardwoods, is it supposed to look the color of the flooring or the color of the baseboards? I thought it would be the color of the baseboard.
Dum. Hey, Justin, what do you say?
I'm trying to read this again. Finishing trim for the engineered hardwood.
We're talking quarter round.
Quarter round
or shoe mold. We use those terms interchangeably, apparently.
Yep, that can cost you.
If it's a laminated vinyl plank, it's actually going to be a paint grade shoe mold that we use that's going to match the baseboards. If it's a true laminated hardwood, something that goes glued down to the floor, it will be a shoe mold that will match the hardwood floors.
That's right.
Tile, just to head this off, because it's the next question, tile will have a paint grade shoe mold as well that matches the trim color that it shows for the house.
So yeah, Linda, if it's like he's saying, the plywood looking product, and that's what you're calling it, engineered hardwood floors, which is a very specific term, and sounds like what you're talking about. That is going to be stained to match the floor. That's not an option on the luxury vinyl. Like, in other words, it's kind of an upgrade to get that. Okay, for all intents and purposes, the painted that we do on tile and the luxury vinyl plank and all that is because it can be done by anybody, whereas that is actually stained by the flooring company, not the manufacturer of the wood floor, but the company that installs those for us. They kind of do a little color match for it and haul it out there and install that.
Okay.
I personally like the stained.
Yeah.
But
Lisa's saying that her house with the cabinet issue, it's a Granberry, so that'll help us kind of figure out which one it is. Feel free to use mine to tweak the design. So I know we've built that before, and I haven't heard this, so we'll take a look and figure out what's going on there.
for sure.
And Will is sharing that yes, farming and homesteading never ends. Always plenty of projects.
Yes.
Glad you're enjoying that home. Our friend from Florida is asking, will you guys consider expanding to other states in the future, or are you content with Texas right now and it's big enough to stay in for another 90 years?
What do you think, Justin? Actually, what do you think, Dawn?
I think Texas is a pretty big place, so it probably would be best for us to kind of expand, within Texas. We haven't conquered the whole state yet, but we never say never. So I don't know that we're going to jump all the way to Florida where you are, but Never say never. So maybe not the next 90 years, but maybe like the next 10 we'll stay put. I don't know. I'm not on the board that makes that decision. You two are. So
I'll go where there's seafood and Mexican food. That's if they have that, then I'm in. Let's just,
My man. I'm with you
roll.
on that. But yeah, right now it is, all kidding aside, we're staying in the great state of Texas for the foreseeable future. If the next generation wants to jump out of state and go do that, they're welcome to. Actually, we entertained this before, and we currently have a piece of property for sale if you're interested in another state. So give us a holler if you're curious. It's not Florida, but it ain't far.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Pretty close. All right. And Linda is saying thank you for the feedback on the shoe mold.
Oh, very cool. Oh, it looks, and Candace, we got to put Candace's comment up there because I think.
Yeah, Candace, she clicked the wrong reaction on one of our posts. So if you click it again, it'll change over to the smiley face instead of the angry face.
I want a smiley face, Candace. Please send me a smiley face.
Justin needs a smiley face.
I need a smiley face.
I did feed him. He was very hangry earlier.
Was he hungry?
Very, very hangry.
Oh.
He gets predictably hangry. He needs a bite of a sandwich and a moment of silence. So we got that taken care of. Guys, do keep asking the questions. We're going to be here answering your questions for you. We want to talk about, again, anything building on your land, anything the planning process. Justin, you mentioned something earlier, and I want to touch on a little bit, and that is obviously wanting to keep the job moving. We aren't going to deliberately stop the job at any time, but there are things at a certain part of the process that we might. What sort of things could happen during the construction process that could make things have to could force your team to have to stop that we could avoid maybe?
So there's all kinds of variables. I mean, I tell my folks this all the time. The act of building the house isn't really that hard. And I hate to simplify what we do. What makes it challenging is all the variables, right? Mm-hmm. So weather certainly going to impact it. So there's some things that we just absolutely cannot and will not do if the weather's not cooperating with us, so to speak. Sorry, Eric fed me another Texas-based company, Whataburger, so I'm getting a little indigestion. Thank you for that.
You're based in Chicago now.
Yeah, well, that's true. Publicly traded. So we are going to have some of those little stops. The other thing that we will stop is if we have inspections. So we want to make sure that as we cover up things, correct? So pouring concrete, you're not going to find an easy way to make corrections to concrete once it gets hard. So having a third set of eyes come in there, and it is a third set because we have a lot of people looking over that, but an inspection for those. So we're going to break down, trying to coordinate contractors. So they're working on a job and we call them to schedule, and we schedule them for a day. And then we're going to tell you a window that they're going to show up, because if they get held up, if they lose the guy off the crew because he's sick, especially like this time of year, that's going to postpone completion. So they're not going to leave one job incomplete to just go start another job. We don't encourage that. We want them to finish what they've got, and then we can move them on to the next one. So that would be another pause that we would have in there. Sometimes, honestly, utility companies, we're all partners here, and I know the customers are working extremely hard a lot of times to coordinate the utilities to come in. And they have their own set of rules, and they certainly don't answer to many people. They're certainly not going to answer to Tilson Homes. We cannot hold them accountable, nor can you. So you're kind of at their mercy. I think most of the utility companies, they want to get the work done also. I don't think they go into it with a bully mentality, but they have what they're realistically able to accomplish in a short period of time. So those are briefly some of the things that we're going to see. Shortages sometimes. I think, as I said, supply chains are moved up. We've been ordering materials and very fortunate to do business with Reese, Morrison, Weisenbaker, a lot of McCoys, and they've really had our relationships there have yielded us getting materials when some people couldn't, and they stockpiled, and we're seeing that stuff more available today. But there's a variety of things that can hold up a job, but those would be kind of a brief overview as to what they would be.
Very cool. Thank you.
Makes sense. We have Tim asking, we have future plans of building a Polidoro in Hamilton County. What effect will having a steel building built before the house have on the land appraisal? Is it positive or negative?
So theoretically, Tim, it's going to be positive. And really probably even in practicality. So anything you're doing that's going to add value to the real estate, to improve the real estate. So understanding that the real estate, we're talking about real estate, it's the dirt, the physical land that can convey. When you read a deed of some sort, it says such and such real estate and all improvements. So a home, an improvement, metal building, an improvement, fence, septic, these are all improvements. So it's anything that you do to the property that if you were to turn around and sell it, you could theoretically charge more for it because it now has improved, then you could sell it for more. So it will have a positive impact on the appraisal. What I cannot guarantee is that there will be a perfect correlation, okay, between what you spent on the building and what's reflected in an appraisal. It could be less. In other words, and all of this is going to be based on comparable sales in the area, right? So whatever's closed in, say, the last 6 months, now it could be resale, it could be new, whatever. But as long as it's closed in the last 6 months in the area, and they'll have a little bit more latitude in a rural area like Hamilton County, they can go further out to get the comparable sales, 15 miles or so. But it could appraise for less than what you spent on the metal building. It could appraise for more than what you spent on the metal building.
Yeah, I would say that's a perfect
right. That would be
that's more.
That's a royal flush. So if it appraises for more, then it does. It doesn't mean you owe any more. It doesn't mean you have automatically a little bit more equity. So it will have a positive. My prediction is that it will have a positive impact on the appraised value. What I can't make a prediction about is if it will be a perfect correlation of exactly what you spent. But
okay, awesome.
Was that confusing enough? I hope so.
No, I thought that was pretty clear. So Kimberly's asking, we did our site evaluation yesterday in Matagorda and found out we need to put in a 5-foot tall compacted dirt pad. The house is 1,650 square foot. Any ideas on what this may cost us?
Well, this is like a train leaves Chicago at 4:00. I'm not making light, Kimberly. We're going to do the best we can. I don't know.
Don't look at me.
That might be the best I can do. Yeah. I don't know how far the furthest dirt pit is away from your property. I don't know what that particular place is getting per load. Justin, you might have a little bit more insight on something like this. It's just very dangerous to predict a dirt pad price. And I'm not trying to scare you and think it's going to be goo gobs of money. Like it's going to be what it's going to be. There's not a lot of money to be made in the dirt business unless you move a lot of dirt. So it's not going to cost much different regardless of who does it necessarily. But Justin, I'm going to yield to you on some insight there, buddy.
Well, I'm in the same camp. The one thing I would say here is that we will certainly get several bids. So we're not going to lead you into the dark here. We're going to work with you to get the bids, find out how much that pad's going to be. We're going to look for the best options that we can find with people we can trust, because building a compacted dirt pad is much different than just building a raised pad. And so there's a couple of different options actually that we might be exploring there to reduce some of those costs. Still having an engineered foundation that's going to last. So I would be more apt to lean towards the bid, but price fluctuation has certainly come into play. Diesel's still real high. So whatever I was quoting for a pad probably 8 months ago is going to be quite a bit different, because it's not the material so much, it's the haul that really cost generally in that business. That's why you see dump trucks moving so quickly. They tend to do a little bit more than the speed limit, but it's the haul cost of that material that's going to really ramp up the cost if it is. But I would submit letting us get you bids, and that way we have a comfort level, because anything that we would lay out here today either scare you off or you'd come back to me and say, hey, it seems like you were grossly off on that. And it's a pretty good sized pad. In Matagorda, it's not uncommon to see that either. So you're going to get out of the floodplain down there is what I'm assuming we're working.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and they're in the floodplain.
Yeah.
So which you're doing the right thing. You got to get out of that.
Yeah. No, you absolutely have to get out of that. But I would let us get some really good bids for you, and that way we could put a cost in front of you that's accurate, something that we can hold to.
Okay, perfect.
And the good news is also, I'll add to that, we have a ton of experience in Matagorda County. Like, we've got a ton of experience in a lot of places, but Matagorda County is a place that, we've had the office there in Angleton for going on 40 years now, actually right at 40 years. So we have a significant amount of experience there. We have some very good trade base there. Justin Ordno worked very hard to get that trade base where it is today. And so you're going to be in good hands, and we'll get some real good competitive bids.
Okay, perfect. Tim was asking about our preferred lenders, and we dropped you a couple. We dropped both of them to you in the comments. We like working with AMCAP, Matt Howe over there, and also with Stephanie Morgan at the Build Texas team with Loan People are our preferred lenders. So they're good to reach out, and we dropped that in the comments for you. Then we have Julie asking, our property is really high in the front and descends into several ravines. The forms were placed to the back of the dirt pad, so there's a steep drop off right off the back porch, like 8 to 10 feet steep. The foundation is becoming exposed back there. How will the final grade fix that? We will also add gutters and grass right away to prevent erosion.
Okay, so Justin, can you scroll down and see the whole comment on your right side? You can actually scroll down and see the whole thing.
So erosion control is really what we're talking here. So we build on pads, and depending on property lines, it might have been set up this way for a very specific reason. But 8 to 10 foot fall off, those beams are going to be into virgin soil, or we have hard points into virgin soil that extend out past that pad is what I'm thinking is most likely the case here. So erosion control. So it could be gutters, and seeding that with some kind of grass will certainly help with erosion. Initially moving in, when you start getting into beams, we're taking the spoils out of that foundation and putting them outside the forms, because we have to have those beams to support the structure up above. And that is what we're seeing wash off. That's a little concern at that point. But I would think possibly consideration of a retaining wall at a later date might be, again, without seeing a lot of the stuff, you're kind of guesstimating as to what might be going on here. Gutters on something that, on that, depending on roof or if it's gable, certainly will not hurt as far as controlling some of that erosion. But I would think something else is going to have to come in there at some point. As far as grass, and then possibly silt fence in the interim would be an option to control that runoff. But if it's just spoils, I'm not really overly concerned at this point. And the final grade, they'll come in there. They will, if the final grade is specifically to your question, we will replace that dirt up against the foundation, but we do not lay grass. We do not do the landscape, so to speak, from a vegetation standpoint. But that would be something that you're going to need to consider long-term.
Yeah, I think what she's saying, that she's going to bring the grass, and looks like it's about a 60 by 60, 59 by 59 dirt pad that we did. I'm looking at the site evaluation here real quick, and yeah, you can and it's a 3-to-1 slope, and so maybe you could explain to people what does that mean when we call for a 3-to-1 slope on the pad.
On the pad itself. So the pad is going to generally extend. If it was an existing, and that's the other thing we have to be cautious of here, I think, Eric, is so.
No, we brought it out. We did the pad.
So we did the pad. So we typically will bring that pad out to a level of about 5 feet away from the foundation, give or take, and then it will have a slope off. Now, on a very steep lot, which is what it sounds like we're dealing with here, you're not going to be able to slope that thing out to a zero level. You'd be bringing in dirt for days, and we would not be able to. A retaining wall would be a more cost-effective, better solution for that. But you are going to have a slope that's going to be able to manage that water runoff. Again, I think if we're getting past the beams going into the virgin soil, that's probably something we're going to look at a little bit more closely. But if it's just on the back, on the flat side, I would doubt that we're getting that kind of runoff from the virgin soils that we have there that are existing.
Yeah, it looks like it runs. It's like a 42-inch out of level on the footprint of the home, and then it just kind of keeps on falling off to this ravine she's talking about. So
she actually sent me a picture.
Oh,
hide her.
Pretty. It must be fall there in North Texas.
Yeah. So this is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So when we go back to grade, and then I'm sorry, I'm on my laptop today, and I apologize for that. But on the screenshot that I'm seeing here, when they come and grade it, the runoff that we have there, that's easily going to be covered up and sloped out correctly. And it's not directly off of that off the corner of that foundation that were 8 to 10. I was thinking an 8 to 10 foot drop off there.
Right. No, it's just sloping down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sloping now. I'm not worried at this point. I think you're not having to worry about anything like creep or anything like that. I think this is just normal runoff from the surface. And once you get in there and you lay grass and put gutters, I think you're just going to be in good shape. I'm not concerned here.
We had a big heavy rain, but for most people, Friday night, 2.5 inches in a lot of places, and that's going to create a significant amount of runoff off the roof of these houses. And so that's what a lot of as we've been driving around the state, we've been able to tell, like, wow, they got tremendous rain.
Yeah,
Well,
Julie, if you're
it's
worried
all
about it,
been-
talk to Colton. He can kind of
Yeah.
explain it to you because he's out there and sees it. So, alrighty. And then we've got, what would you guys say be the benefits of having a brick house and a wood house, and which one is better?
Justin, what do we build out there?
There is an element, and I've fallen victim to this trap, so I don't know.
Let me preface this.
This is our guy from Florida.
Cinder blocks. Think cinder blocks. Okay.
Okay.
So tell him what we do here in Texas.
So in Texas, either or. I don't. If we're talking about a wood house, that's all we're going to do. So your structure will be made out of 2x material, and you're not really seeing an influx. You see a little bit of some newer techniques, not necessarily new to the United States, or if you travel around the world, not newer to them necessarily, but here in Texas, historically, you're going to see us using typical sticks and bricks. So we're not going to be seeing CMU or any of those type of applications here. It's just predominantly a 2x material for structure here.
Yeah. So what you're seeing on the outside is truly just what? It's just veneer, right? I mean,
so what I would submit, and you get the question a lot of times about the materials that we might use in our home, and I think it's what the industry is comfortable with. Are they good with the application? So if you ask me to change my construction techniques, I'm not going to say that we couldn't get through it necessarily, but am I going to build you a better house out of brick or CMU, something of that nature, than I would out of sticks? And the answer I'm going to put down that we would be better at just sticking to our tried and true method of the normal 2x material that we're going to have for the skeleton of our homes. And you start getting into, with CMU or brick, you start running mechanicals in a different way. It's going to require different mechanical. I mean, there's just a whole different world that you're going to start entering into. Again, very possible and very doable. But from a Tilson standpoint, what we are going to build for you, we are going to do a better job of building out of wood.
And part of this is it's a familiarity standpoint, right, with local contractors. You'll find, good friend from YouTube, that there are very, very few contractors in Texas that are accustomed to working with anything but wood frame construction. So everything we build is wood frame construction. What you're seeing on the outside and all of our elevations, the pictures that we show, that is truly just, it's going to be one of four things. It's going to be some type of a hardy product, whether it's board and bat or hardy plank siding. You're going to see brick, you're going to see stone, or you're going to see stucco. In all of those cases, what's behind there is still the wood frame of the home.
Right.
In none of those cases are any of those finishes holding anything up structurally, the house holding the house up, as opposed to the construction in Florida where the CMUs are truly holding the house up. So from that perspective, it doesn't matter which one you do. Now, from a long-term perspective, the cool thing about a hardy, right, is if you get tired of the color, change it, paint it. Brick and stone, while that can still be done, that is a very permanent look, but you don't ever have to repaint it. You will eventually have to repaint the hardy plank. I don't care where you build it. You will eventually have to repaint it. The closer you get to the Texas Gulf Coast, where there's more humidity, more moisture, more rain, the more frequently you will have to pressure wash and repaint. The further you get into the Texas Hill Country, the less frequently you'll have to do that. So those are really the only differences, benefits, pros, cons, whatever, to doing a hardy plank, a frame house versus a masonry exterior. I don't see a whole lot of benefits to stucco, but maybe Justin has opinions about that. I'm sure he has opinions.
Again, I think as you move around, climates are going to change construction techniques. I was speaking to a builder that was from up north, and they're talking about snow loads, and they do some other things like heated floors, like they do some other things just because they know the climate up there is going to require that. Here, we're not going to do that. But you send me down a windstorm, and I send a framer that doesn't know windstorm down to windstorm, I guarantee you he is not getting that right the first time around. Generally speaking, he's going to have challenges with that. Even here, we get into climate zone changes, and we offset that with foam insulation and the climate zone. So those framing techniques are actually a little bit different than you would if you're in a traditional bat and blown situation. So, there's just a lot of factors that can go into that. What I can tell you is I feel like we have a good program around the details that require across the state. As far as stucco goes, I don't care for stucco, Eric. I'm not a huge fan of stucco. Again, high humidity areas, especially along the coast, is something I would just steer away from. I think the industry is, if you moved around the coast, you'd see that the challenges are associated with stucco on commercial buildings. If you drive around, you'll generally see 4x8 sheets outlined on a lot of hotels that are on the coast that have stucco on them. But as we move out towards the Central Texas market and a little bit towards North Texas, I don't think it's as problematic. That's why you see it in Arizona and, those more humid or drier climates. Yeah. You'll see that style of construction being more prevalent. And as you get into Florida, which kickstarted this, I'm sure with all the hurricanes, because they're guaranteed. I mean, I feel horrible for them. We get one every once in a while, and we certainly aren't as prepared as Florida, I wouldn't imagine. But Florida gets them all the time, and that CMU or some kind of concrete construction would probably be beneficial from a long-time perspective. Just not what we need here.
All right, perfect. We have friends from YouTube, Penny and Ernie Dog. Hello, what are the build times in Ellis County? We signed the contract and are ready to roll.
Okay, so I'll speak to the upfront kind of design process part for Ellis County. And what I don't know is if you're actually inside of a city. Are you in Waxahachie? Are you in Palmer or one of those? So I'll just speak specifically to Ellis County. And we have been able, in some cases, if we don't have to do any kind of replatting or anything like that, and we're not in the floodplain, we've been able to get the paperwork portion. So your septic designs, your engineering, site, all that kind of stuff. Oh, you're in the city of Ennis. I'm going to change what I'm going to say then. So we're going to, it doesn't add a whole lot of time, but it does have some time. You got some permitting that goes down. So you're looking at least probably 120 days, 4 months, probably 4 to 6 months of upfront prep work. That's design and permitting and engineering and color selections and going back to the city a couple of times and site evaluation and all that kind of good stuff. And then I'll let Justin speak to the actual construction time, the actual build time from the time that we release the house to construction till we hand you the keys and are finished. Go, my man.
So, depending on, and I don't know if we're already under construction or not here, but right now
we signed the contract, and it looks like we probably had a stakeout because we're 11 inches out of level.
And the stakeout is done, it says. So we are excited about. We're about a third of the way into that first part of the process. So
what I'm going to do, square footage of home, there's going to be some variables in here, but I will tell you what we've seen is every region's cycle time shot up. They all went up pretty consistently with one another. So we didn't see one region outperforming another from the height of this. And that's kind of what we're seeing closing right now as we measure overall cycle times. So now what we're starting to look at is those earlier stages of construction. And so we measure this, and we have documents that they send in, the builders will send in, so that we can evaluate kind of what those cycle times are. I would believe that we're going to be around that 2.25. Now I'm going to put some pressure on my team here, and I'm going to have a VP of construction up north calling me here shortly.
Freeman.
He hates it when I put goals out in front of him, but his team will rise to the occasion. I'm anticipating about that time that home would come out to us. We're probably going to be looking at that 2.25 as far as the cycle times.
So 225 days. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And that's, I think that would be,
you say 2.25, I think like a Starbucks coffee, but you're saying 225. Right. I guess
we don't drink Starbucks. We go to McDonald's, but that's $4 coffee for salespeople. But here, I would believe that we're looking at angling those cycle times down. That's the thing that we were talking about. Historicals don't matter. I'm not looking back at where we're at. I definitely know where I'm at today. I don't think anybody in the state, as far as construction goes, any company that I've talked to, all their cycle times grew just by varying degrees. Mm-hmm. So trying to forecast that on the other side of this, I think is where we're headed. And I know my team is dedicated to getting down to, and I hate I hate that COVID was a marker line here, but pre-COVID, we were angling right at about 180 to 190 days is where we were targeting to have our average at. And so I would like to see us come down with these batches of starts that we've got coming in and being somewhere in that 2.25, which I think is very realistic for us. But I would appreciate that you follow up with the builder. He's going to look at those plans. He's going to know the challenges of the city. He's going to know all the things that are going into that, what his contractor base is doing. And I don't think he's going to get you down to the day, but I think he could give you a decent estimate because I think things are becoming a little bit more stable out there in the market. And that's really
short answer is as quick as possible, right? I mean, that's the short answer.
Yeah.
Really. I mean,
I'd love to. If I was on the other end sending that question, if you sold me that, I'd be a little upset. So I'm gonna throw it out there, and like I said, I'll be having a ton of phone calls after this. That say,
Your phone's probably already ringing.
You're announcing internal goals here, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. You'll feel it. But I think those guys are really moving, and I think stability is going to be our friend as we move into the new year.
Great question, and thanks for trusting us too very much.
Yes. And then what was our opinion on 11 inches out of level? Is that good? Is that bad? Is that indifferent? What are we?
That's indifferent. I mean, if you travel around some parts of the state and you say 11 inches, it's like, well, that's nothing. That's flat. If you go to some places in the Gulf Coast, it's like, wow, I think we can go skiing down this. But 11 inches is nothing for any of us to manage in any region that we have. 11 inches is.
Yeah, I actually like 11 inches. It's enough where you have good positive drainage, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna have a hard time getting water to flow away, but it's not so much that it's like, oh man, we're looking at a gigantic insurmountable. Like that's a great number. Well done on purchasing that piece of property. Great job.
All right. Julie says, thank you for the advice on the foundation.
Sure.
Tim is saying, again, thanks for the info. Not all heroes wear capes. Some are bald guys with beards or pretty brunettes. Oh, thank you. What do you recommend for a path needed to get to the build site? The home will be 150 feet from the road. So 150 feet of crushed concrete, blacktop, caliche, or asphalt.
Justin, this is like someone teed this up for you, buddy.
I know.
What would you
This
like
is Justin's question.
From a construction drive, all-weather access standpoint, in a perfect world, what do you got?
So I was meeting with another sales counselor earlier today, and we got to talking about this. So what you have to realize is the baby trucks don't come in first. The site evaluator is going to be driving what we consider a baby truck, which is a half-ton extended cab, and you're talking about a few thousand pounds, right? Our first trucks coming in are going to be a soils truck. I don't know the exact weight, but I'm going to estimate 30,000 pounds. I do know that my concrete trucks, they're going to be 14 and a half feet tall. They're going to be about 8 foot wide. And you're looking at them going at 85,000 pounds, 85,000 pounds. So how do you wrap your head around how to get an 85? The elephant has to go this 150 feet. So we don't need a pretty road. When we start out, it would be almost bad for you to put in a real pretty road with a little bitty granular, P-rock or something like that. Cause we're going to sink 85,000. We've done it. I've got the badge. I've pulled a few out, not with my truck either, but tow rigs and it's all kinds of interesting things that happen when they get stuck. So I would tell people that crushed rock, bull rock, depends on what part of the state you're in, but even if it's the size of my fist or your fist, just ball the fist up, what's going to happen is that 85,000 pound truck is going to push it down in the dirt, but it's going to find a solid spot. It'll be the firmest road that you've ever seen. And if you look at highway construction of all the material they bring in there, or if you go to a commercial site, what they do is they put in that big rock, and that's the access. They don't pour the pretty little driveway until they're done with construction. Mm-hmm. So we're looking for something that can hold that. How do you measure that? I will tell you a trick that I learned a long time ago from a former employee here, Mr. Jimmy Stafford, in fact. 3/8 inch rebar. And that's, about the size of your pinky, a piece of rebar. If you can push that into the ground, that's about the pounds per square inch. With your body weight, that's about the pounds per square inch of a 85,000 pound truck. And I've used that little trick for many years. And I will be honest with you, it really does work. So If you're on sand, it'll change a little bit, because if it's a little damp, sand actually firms up and you can drive a lot of things on it. If it's really dry, like some of the sugar sand that we drive on, if it's real dry, we're getting stuck on that. So gumbo, you need something that's going to hold up. At the very end of construction, or you don't even have to do it when you close, but you got to have a driveway that's going to lead you up to the property. If you have a garage, it's got to be accessed into the garage. You can come back and top dress that road with that finer material, and it does a great job, because then you know you got stability. So when friends and family are coming over, they're not going to fall through, even if they're carrying RV or camper or whatever they're bringing in. But that is truly the best way to establish a construction road. It doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be bulky and hold up 85,000 pounds. Let us get through construction, then come do the final top coat or concrete or whatever else you want to do.
Yeah, so definitely no blacktop, no asphalt right away, right? And if you're ordering it from a place or getting bids for something, 3 to 5 inch, that is what they'll savvy that. They'll understand that. Nothing smaller than 2 inch. Would you say, Justin, for sure?
Yeah, I think that 3 to 5 inches in it, and I get it. You want to see the pristine, pretty road. It'll come. Let us get finished. We're going to establish the base, because you watch they have those giant rollers on highway construction, and all they're doing is compacting it. We'll play the compactor for you as we call in 140, 150 yards of concrete to come in there. We'll get it done. And then the McCoy's truck is going to roll in there. They're going to run spiders. You got another 40, 50,000 pounds there. So we're really going to do a great job of compacting that road to finish it off, just like the state would or the county would if they're doing a project.
All right. Great question.
All right.
Thank you for asking.
And he was also sharing they're building an all board and batten farmhouse Canyon C. So that'll be really pretty. One of our favorites. Our friend in Florida is asking, does their Tilson home come with a warranty, or do we get our own home insurance?
What say you, Mr. Ordino?
This is everything punts to Ordino Day. I'm so glad.
That's what we do with our special guests.
He's never going to come back now.
No, I'll come back.
You run too many things. They're your department, so
This is true. So we have a 1, 2, and 10-year warranty aspect to the purchase of your home. So the 1 year is fit and finish items. So that's going to be everything on the house. If there's a cabinet door that warps, we're going to come out and replace that. If we have an issue with any kind of fit and finish, you get a cracked tile, we're going to be there to fix that. As you move into year number 2, we're going to start talking about mechanical. So you got HVAC, plumbing, and electrical that we are still going to maintain the warranty on. If we do septic, it'd be extension of that, so we would warrant that as well. But those are the aspects. So if an outlet fails or GFI fails within that first 2 years, we're going to come out and replace that GFI. Then you move into the 10-year structural warranty, and that generally is more applicable to the foundation. So if you have anything that happens to that foundation and it gets out of level. Now, the caveat to that is when we move you in, we're going to do an introductory walk with you to make sure that you understand the maintenance aspects. And a lot of people have great ideas, and we just want to make sure that if you're going to plant an oak tree, hey, that little oak tree is actually more detrimental than an old growth tree that's already on the property, because that root structure is going to go underneath the beam. It's going to start robbing the moisture from underneath that foundation, which at that point we have issues because that's consistent moisture content. It's not easy to inject moisture underneath a foundation beam. It can really easily be extracted by a little tree. Converse to that would be that if you built a sidewalk up and we have water standing, or if the dog dug a hole, and this happened a couple of weeks ago, dog dug a hole, a giant pit right next to the inside corner, and there's water just standing there, that's injecting water in there. So that soil is going to heave potentially. So those are the things we'll go over in the 1, 2, and 10-year aspects. And we actually provide you a book, so it's very clear what's coming in as far as your obligations and what we do as far as covering the warranty. And we have a great warranty team too there that is always available for questions. If you ever need to know something about a maintenance aspect for your HVAC, plumbing, electrical, we can always be a guide there also. So you don't have to assume anything. They love fielding those phone calls and helping people understand how to best maintain their home.
And by the way, because you're coming from Florida, that is state law in Texas. That 1, 2, and 10 that Justin just mentioned, that's state law. So if you're talking to somebody who's saying, oh, no, you don't get a warranty from us, you buy your own, like, run the other way. On resales, it's a different story. But on new home construction in the state of Texas, that 1, 2, 10 that Justin just mentioned is state law. and I don't know how it works in Florida, but you will need to get homeowners insurance anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I know he's younger and this is going to be a first home. Home insurance is different from the warranty, so you need to get that as well. Home insurance protects, acts of God, acts of nature, like for loss. So you want to make sure that you're getting that. The warranty is a whole separate thing.
Great question.
Yes. And Penny, who we were talking to earlier, said her stakeout's done, wanted to share that the whole team is awesome. And I guess is thanking mom. I'm not sure why, but
that was on the wife. I congratulate them on their 11 child level.
Oh, for picking them a lot. Yep. All right, got it.
Credit we all should.
On the construction drive, I forgot to ask how wide that 3 to 5 inch bull rock road should be, standard width or wider.
How wide do you want your road, Justin?
If we can get 10 foot, that's a path. And if you get into 8, it gets a little narrow because, again, these trucks, we're going to be backing them down, and configurations of driveways can be perfectly straight. Sometimes that's a challenge in itself, but we got to maneuver around. But if we can get a straight shot that's 10 foot, generally we're able to navigate that. We might need some more room around the foundation to turn trucks around and things like that. But if we can just get there with a straight shot, our success rate is a lot higher than if we have nothing there to travel path down where we need to go.
Okay.
You're kinder than me. I would have said 12.
I'll take 10 if we can get 12.
We've already learned that Justin's harder on his team than we are.
Oh, she was going to do 8. Check it out. They were going to do 18 feet.
They were going to do 18.
See, you're a bad negotiator, Justin.
Here's the other thing. So if you want that, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I also know that we're all budget conscious here. And if I'm going to, I don't like wasting people's money. I don't want to do that. So I feel like in the past, navigating 10 foot is doable. If we get 18, I mean, that I'm going to run into a plane on that. But I think if we can get at least 10, we'll be able to navigate that.
All right. And then we've got Nora sharing that they are building a Gonzales C in Richland Chambers Lake, breaking ground January 23rd, hoping to get moved up. Have not met with our builder yet, but excited to get started. That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, you'll be hearing from Cheyenne soon, setting up the pre-construction meeting. I bet you. Mm-hmm. That's 3 or 4 weeks or so.
Yeah. And that is the last comment I see.
Awesome. Well, hey, I really appreciate everybody watching. Thank you, Justin, for joining us. I know you're a busy man, Justin. So thanks for taking the time to do this. Your audio was fantastic. Hope you enjoyed the microphone that I loaned you, for the record.
I'm stealing it. This is mine.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to sing into it later after this is over.
Good thing we're doing this.
And good thing we're ending now.
Yeah. Dawn, thanks for setting this up. I know Kelsey, you were Amanda was manning the chat, so appreciate that very much. Thank all of you for watching. Appreciate the comments, the questions, especially to those that are people that are our customers currently. Thank you for trusting us. You folks that are thinking about using us, thank you for even considering us and giving us an opportunity. It means a lot. So thanks for supporting our little family-owned company. We're grateful for that. And obviously, there's tons of places you can find us. We've got an award-winning website that's got a ton of information. Got a YouTube channel that many of you are watching from. Obviously, Facebook page, Instagram. I'm sure there's valuable information there. TikTok, I'm not going to say yes or no.
There's not valuable information there, but it's fine.
And obviously, we have 12 design centers open 7 days a week all over the state. We just left Waco. Justin, what's going on in Waco? What'd you see?
Man, we got a casita that's going to be a sales. We've got a lot of great things. We've got 2 homes that are pretty soon. I'm actually excited about the seminar we're about to put on here December 10th. Yep. Richard Webb, God, he's been with us, 30 years?
He's close to 30. Counting his contractor days, it's over 30 years, yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to be out there. I get an opportunity to join in that day, so I'm excited about that. But we have some good-looking frames that are going up, and we got mechanicals in them. So if you can sneak by there in the next few weeks. Admittedly, Richard is ready to move into drywall. I think he's
a little upset. I'm holding it back.
We will hold up for a seminar if it's models, because it's a rare opportunity. We don't get to build models every day.
If you guys want to show up and see what happens behind the sheetrock before we cover it up, Saturday, December 10th is the day for you in Waco, Texas. Let's cover up Justin and Richard, make them feel very welcome. And there's been a lot of good information on that. And then I believe we are getting started on our Paladura model in San Marcos. I think I was talking to John McIntyre, and it's getting restaked today. We did a little movie shifty changey on it a little bit. Don't tell the city of San Marcos. We just a touch. And then what else? We did a formal stakeout site evaluation in Republic Grand Ranch to get that laid out. So lot going on as we head into the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. But ask us any questions you want. We will answer anything you have. That's why we're here. We will be here, obviously, ongoing. We're here for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. We're grateful for each and every one of you, and we hope you find this information very useful and help you on your journey. And we genuinely soon hope to make you part of the Tilson family. We'll see you guys next time. Catch you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.